Hello everybody, and we're just getting things set up here for another live session. I'm just going to try and get things like the chat going here. Just going to scroll over here. Let's see. And it looks like we're live now. Just got to make these windows a little more compatible with what's going on. Here we go. Almost ready. I can make this window. That's more like it. So what you can see here, we're just going to get rid of this. Got ourselves a Necron Destroyer Lord. I believe that's what this is. And you can see some references over here to the right and to the left. We're going to try and paint him up like that. We got some object source lighting to do. Obviously, he's a little bit different. He doesn't have the Gauss cannon there, but he does have one of the orbs. So we'll see what we can do with that. We'll be working with some fluorescent paint, like this right here. This is actually from Scale 75. I've been looking for some substitutes for the Vallejo fluorescents. These so far have been the closest. And what I'm going to do is take you to... Here we go. We're just heading over to the blog right here, and you can get a better idea of what we're hoping to do with this guy right here. So you can see we got that basically a lot of the carapace is that sort of a gold type of a thing. And then we've got a lot of greens on our metals, but those are just more of a sort of a standard gray. Now the base, here's some other, that's what that started out as. See all those junky Necrons there? That's what this thing all started out as. And so I haven't done too many Necrons. This is some of the stuff I've done in the past here. Hoping to maybe try some of that again on some of these newer ones. Let's check out the base here real quick. So now this is much different than the one you see there. I actually carved. Hey there, Tim. How's it going? I actually carved that out. This is actually made with a Green Stuff World texture roller. You can see I used some. This is the gray extra firm Sculpey clay. I'm going to have a link to my Sculpey Bacon video at the end of this. But this is also part of my latest army painting series. So I've got a whole bunch of these guys here. I have an entire unit of these. You can see we've already done the basing episode here. And what we're going to do is actually these are going to be done in TMM. That's the true metallic metals. So we want to give that a try too. I haven't done any kind of army painting series using metallics. That'll be a kind of a first. And that's on the Patreon page. You can see that scrolling right across the bottom of the screen. And you can see where I've broken away other pieces of this to make bases. Here, let's get this maybe out of the way, and you can see some of the other... There we go. Here's some of the rest of the unit. That's what we're going to be working on. Hey, Bethany. Well, hopefully this is not a horrible time for you. I know it's about an hour-ish earlier than I normally do, but this is going to be really different. And I think you might like this. What do we have out here? We've got some of the liner paints here, like blue liner, brown liner, sepia liner. So that's your Reaper paints. Yeah, well, I think you already saw the one. Remember the one basing episode I did not too long ago? This is really going to expound on that. I'm also going to be using some of the Pro Acryls here. Get those on the Creature Caster website as well. And let's see, here's our sepia liner over here. Yeah. And we're going to use our same old craft brushes here. Just like always, the number 8 rounds. Some of them more like filberts, and some of them a little more pristine, a little bit sharper there. So let's get him out of the way. And let's get down to this. Now I've got him just on this little, see that little peg right there? Don't know if we'll have time to get to the base or not. Hopefully we do. But this is where he's going to sit. See that hole right there? That pin is going to sit right in there, and he's going to be looking down like this. Yeah, it's all that Green Stuff World texture roller, some rocks, some gravel, and you can see this is just a piece of sprue right over here. So you could really accentuate that as well. And I'm going to paint that up in the same way I did this one right here. And it's on the original old plastic flying base. Nothing special. Added a few of I think those are some secret weapon skulls in there. But first, let's get cranking away here. I also have some contrast paints out here. This is snakebite leather. And over here, this is the Iandan Dark Sun here. No, that's actually pink color. It is still Iandan yellow. Hey Waleed, how's it going? Yeah, check this out, man. You get some Necrons here. Well, and you'll be getting Sisters in November. I think that's when they're coming out. I don't know when in November. I assume that's a pre-order date. Maybe you have better info on that than I do. I just saw that November was Sisters. So I'm going to start out here. I'm going to throw a little bit of this on the carapace here. What is this? It's a mix of the snakebite leather and the sepia liner. Mostly the snakebite leather, because we don't really need a wash of this, but we are doing it. See how it's semi-transparent here? I don't want to quite refer to this as the dry glaze like we did in, the last live episode a couple days ago when we were painting the Car Wars, Gaslands, Mad Max style vehicle. Let's see, look at how that's already starting to create, even just like this. That could kind of be interesting all by itself. The primer on this, nothing fancy. That's what you're, now, so I assume, first, second week in November? So I'm trying to save up pennies to be able to pre-order that. I don't think I'll dive into the vehicles straight away. All I saw was the Rhino so far, but I will. I think I saw Repentia, probably Retributors, and Seraphim. I think I saw all the usuals there. So, oh yeah, we're diving into that. I was also prepping a whole bunch of Warcry figures today for both myself and Kathy, because she's going to be painting those on her live streams on Twitch during the day. It's 24-hour a day coverage here in Wappelville. Kind of quite literally, because 3 o'clock this afternoon, that's when she started her thing, and rest assured, hey Gary, how's it going? This is going to be lasting past 3 in the morning for me. So, yeah, we'll get y'all covered here. We cover all time zones. We cover Australia, Advanced Australia Fair, of course. Yeah, I'm going to keep going with that, and then, even right there, just by itself, as that dries, look what that leaves behind. That was nothing more than just I'm not really a fan of the zenithal priming turn, but look at that. It almost kind of looks like a little bit of a brassy type of a texture there. So let's get into our metals. This is the blue liner. That's the brown liner. Blue and brown together, they basically make a black. And that's what we're going to start to hit in here. You could use, I do have some of the Wildwood contrast paint over here. So as we speak multiple languages here, if this was contrast paints, this would be a mix of Wildwood and Leviathan Blue. I'm basically out of both of those, so that's why we're back to the liner paints. Scott was kind enough to try and get me some, but he also lives further away from us, so whenever we can meet, we can do the exchange. So this is relatively simple down here. We're going to not focus too much on this. It depends on how the broadcast goes here. Now, for some of you, you may never have actually seen me paint a miniature on a dowel rod. Why am I using a dowel rod instead of a pin vise? Because there was a point where we were painting hundreds of figures on dowel rods, and as you can imagine, hundreds of pin vices, get expensive. Dowel rods, not so much, and they pretty much do the same thing. Most of the figures I paint now are on the bases, so that's not quite so necessary. But still, we have them after all these years. Still have those darn things. Let's see. I'm painting a lot more these days. Spinal nerve root. Ow. Was that a is that an old climbing injury or a more recent climbing injury? I assume it's got to be a climbing injury of some type. No, that now this is why you're always having to either head off to work or whatever when we start these things. Is that pesky new job? Yeah, those are never. They never come at a good time. That's for sure. And can be, well, have their own level of traumaticness to them also. That's for sure. So you can see the difference between the two sides here. Here, let's get the rest of the underside down here. Now I've got just plain old water. That's all this is. There's no medium or flow improver or anything like that. We used to use those things, and by we, I mean Kathy and I. She might still dive into the occasional flow improver or something like that. Me, I do too much of this stuff. I'd need gallons of it. Water is it's easier to get exactly when I need it, so yeah, water suffices. You can see also too how this kind of has a greenish tinge to it just by itself. And if you look at those reference pictures, there is a little bit of a greenish tinge to the metal. That was part of that was to reflect a little bit of what was going on with the glowing Gauss weapon, which I believe is what they still call that. And I'm not as up on my 40K terminology these days, but when I checked on the GW site, well, I still saw these old guys. They're still around. I think I have some of the newer Necron vehicles, some of the cross-ounts. If I can, I'll try and do something like that. Oh, Gary is saying that the dowel rods and popsicle sticks. Ah, there's another good choice right there. Well, better than dowel rods because at least you get to eat the popsicle. Of course, gosh, I don't remember what the heck the name of the company was. We got their popsicles and they had puns or jokes on them, which was unexpected. That was definitely not what I was expecting to see. So you can see this really does tone all this down. It's just, these are actually some ancient Dark Eldar bits that I threw on there. When I prepped this thing, oh my goodness, I believe the date on the images that you're seeing, that was painted back in 2012. So near on almost 8 years ago, because it's probably closer to 8 than it is to 9, or is to 7. Sorry, because that was probably much earlier in 2012. Now, this out here, this is where we're gonna start to dive into our fluorescent paint. And one of the reasons why I liked the scale 75, see how that's got a big old blob right there? Ah, tongue depressors. Now look at that. Well, all the other stuff that I've been trying to use was entirely too liquid. This was a little bit thicker. Now here, we are not actually trying to do too much with this other than just give ourselves a little bit of reminder that it's there. That's all this is. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's just a little, hey, don't forget, that's going to be glowing. Remember that. And we're going to reflect that all along here. That's going to be really nifty. But we need to let that dry for a little bit. So now, do we want to continue the horizon line stuff? Janzar, believe it or not, I've got a metal Janzar somewhere in this house. Don't ask me exactly where, but he's around somewhere. And I'll probably do him as a Patreon video, maybe something like that. But he's also going to be very glowy. because that's a highly technical painting term. Let's set ourselves a horizon line here. Now we want to do it like the one that's in the picture. Okay. But it's got to be uneven for sure. We could even have buildings here, something like this where it's almost like a ruined 40K landscape of some kind. Do the same thing over here. So again, we'll give that some height. I mean, heck, we can even put little windows in there. You can make it look like it was on fire. But what we'll do now is we'll dive into some of our snakebite leather / sepia liner mix. I'll start to backfill this a little bit. All we're trying to do is kind of feel our way through this. This is the opening stages. Because one of the things that happens, I say this all the time in the Patreon videos, one of the reasons people don't try the object source lighting or the non-metallic metals, the freehands, is because they're afraid to ruin something. It means they've been working on something forever, over hours and hours, and they are totally worried that they are going to screw that up somehow. Well, what if you started out with that? Then you wouldn't have to worry about ruining anything later because you started out with that. You can also see we're using big old brushes here. Big old brushes. It's all messy, right? It's all horrible. Well, kinda, sorta. Now we're taking a little bit of yellow. We're working that in here. Let's get a little more yellow in here. Let's see just how defined we want that horizon line to be. Again, jagged. Get some of the paint out of here. I'm going to see if I can't zoom in one step here. 1 second. Ah, bingo. Can almost do this a little bit like some oil paint here. Here, let's get a touch more of our lighter color. And oh gee, it's kind of like we're doing a little bit of wet blending here. But you have to be willing to place those colors somewhat fearlessly. And more than somewhat, a lot fearlessly. You have to just say, you know what? Boom, it's there. We're going to work with it. You can see I'm doing this little bit of a scumbling brush stroke here. It's not a dry brush. There's plenty of paint on there. There's plenty of paint just on the figure itself. Eventually, I also want to do an oil painting series on Necrons. I thought that would be fun. I haven't actually... I couldn't tell you the last time I painted a Space Marine figure. That was forever and a day ago. We have a couple of Primaris Marines here, so I may do a couple of those in live sessions. I really don't want to just do, oh look, Red Space, Blood Angel, Space Marines, Dark Angel. I want to sort of create my own chapter. Do something fun like that. Because I thought that could be more interesting for you guys to see, where we go through, we create some imagery for it, create some basing for it, banners, the whole thing. But instead of just, well, okay, we're matching the same chapter that everybody else is doing. That was, I think, another reason why I just sort of got away from the 40K stuff, is it seemed like you just had to be using one of the standard chapters, one of the established ones. I guess we're anti-establishment Space Marines or something like that. Here, let's go back into this. Remember, all that's going to get hit with the object source lighting. We're just waiting for that to dry. That is why we're out over here. Before we get too far into this, there's something else I have to mark off real quick. I'm going to take some green here. And it just looks like... Does that go all the way? We're going to take some of this green here. Just so I don't keep working on this. This is where some of that freehand's going to go. Like that. Gonna do the same thing on the other side. We'll carry this straight down. Another reason I'm doing this now, and you see that it actually has some of that, the other stuff showed through. If you look at the reference picture, we did continue that bit of non-metallic horizon line even on this portion. So now I need to do the same here and here. Again, this is a little bit different than the other guy, but that's, do you really want, say, an army that has all of the exact same thing just over and over and over again endlessly? That's not too much fun. So I'm just gonna grab myself another brush here. Let's continue with some of our lighter. So that's again the yellow from Creature Caster. That's essentially a maiden flesh. Let's get a little bit lighter here. Let's go right along this edge. And now what I'm going to do that I didn't really do on that one is interrupt it in more places. Like that. You can see there's a pretty hefty outline on the other. We don't necessarily want an outline. There. Let's do a similar thing over on this side. Keep that going. See, maybe I will kill that there. Come back with our basically tantamount to a mid-tone. Yeah, I think that did get lighter back there. So I'm doing a couple of things all at the same time. I'm looking at reference pictures, looking at this, looking to see if that's dry enough to start to enforce some of our object source lighting. Maybe it's not. In any case, we have some other stuff we're going to do. Like this. And this. So maybe this is, if we want a sky here, do we want necessarily a perfect gradation, or do we want some kind of clouds almost in the sky? Or do we want it to be smooth? Either way, you saw I just took my hand there to smooth it out to see how that looked. You can see we're almost sort of doing a little bit of a transparent glaze over the top of that. But it's not really watery. The glaze doesn't have to be watery. And you see this, the paint starts to then sometimes get a little more opaque. Sometimes a little less opaque. That's when we want to do our, yeah, still waiting on that to dry a little bit. Just sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. Timing can be important. Not can be. It is. It usually is very important. Now, depending on just how shiny you want some of these things to appear, that can make a difference too. Now let's get into some of our darks here, because we've been adding a lot of lighter colors. Let's start to work in some darks here. So I just put in some, basically some brown liner there. And now this is that, now we're back into the contrast paints here a bit. So see, we did ourselves a little bit of a transition there. Oh. Now this is another thing. And if you remember the, oh gosh, the Halberds, Song of Ice and Fire, this is where I don't necessarily want the horizon line to be this perfect gradation. I want it to actually look like buildings. So we're intentionally making this a bit rougher. There's little gaps in there. So this is basically like an update on that older theme here. And sometimes, you know, what's old is new. But we're basically trying to make a little bit of an improvement on the old stuff just based on what's been learned since. So that is why you're starting to see more, almost like there's walls here, almost like there's some kind of a spire there or whatever. Now we gotta do the same thing on this side. This is what we're gonna get our darker brown in here. Look at that, and just wipe it right away. This is the benefit of basically working everywhere at once. Instead of working on one isolated little area, you can really get an overview. You can see how things are starting to develop. Now here, see, we're starting to go a little more semi-transparent there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take something here. We're going to see what happens just for funsies. Got a little bit of green that's mixing in here. Touch more. That's that phthalo green. Yeah. I want to see what would happen here along this edge. And I'll tone some of that back. Gonna take even a little more of the there. Hey Gary, how's it going? We have multiple Garys in the house. Multiple Garys. Can never have enough Garys. Or too many, as the case may be. That same green, this is another reason why I was... Look at that. See how it's semi-transparent? Why? Because this is that snakebite leather, the contrast thing. We've mixed it with a green. So it's there, but it's going to be really... It's going to be more so. See that? See that green? Ah, there you go. Now you can see it. Just... I don't know, there's something about that, and this is the other thing we're going to do. We're going to create more of a landscape in here. See how that's just... The other thing is very smooth. Yeah, that's neat. It's Necron, it's smooth. Well, what is that line doing there? We're kind of giving the horizon line a reason to be here. The other one, the horizon line, not so much. Doesn't really have a reason to be. We're doing some, essentially some reflected light there. We need to go back to our darker stuff over here. See how these brush strokes we move in different ways. We're going this way, going in different directions. You can see it does not have to be painful to establish some really nifty colors. Let's go. We got a little bit of the blue liner here. Mixing that in. Straighten this puppy out a little bit. Now that's worth... The world is going to end now. Now that's worth putting on a t-shirt. Yeah, never have too many Garys. Oh, hey, wow, geez, well, remind me of that when it's time to make stickers for conventions like, well, ReaperCon, Adepticon, and stuff. That'll be mystery for people to figure out. You know, there's the usual, if a color goes somewhere, it must go everywhere. And you notice that whole idea of green is being continued. So look at here, we just have a mess, right? A horrible mess. All of a sudden, it's already starting to take a little bit of shape there as we do that. Let's put some of this over here now. And if it's just too wet, we can take some paint away. You notice how we can cover so much of this, but yet there is actually still a sharp point to that brush. Now, if for whatever reason my scissors disappeared, and I would love to just kind of cut this one little burr off the end of it, but I can't really do that without a scissors. Here, let's get down in here. So some of that starts to get lighter, but lighter is relative. I mean, it really is nothing more than barely a mid-tone. Now I'm going to take a little more blue here. That's the blue liner. Changes that color a bit. Now this is going to, one panel there is going to have some object source lighting on it, so I'm not going to absorb myself too much in shading that. You can see, look at this. It makes such a huge difference already. That's what that dark glaze did straight away. Yeah, that's all that dark glaze. Here, let's get just a little more of this. The other reason why is this, why are we going with the green down here? Got to think of those reflections. Look what he's floating around on. Something like this. We also have to find a way to get little dabs of, maybe some small dabs of orange reflection on this. There. Now we're going to have to go down this spine column here. You can see I'm not worried about lines or edges or whatever, because I still have to do things like the object source lighting, and I'm just waiting for things to dry, and I think now we've got things mostly dry. Ah, bonjour. Merci for joining us. Or, what would painting with me be? Well, there's avec moi, but I don't. How have I forgotten the French expression for painting? Well, that's horrible. So forgive me. And that's très terrible. Oh, hey, Mandalore. The blue-gray here, that is blue liner. It's actually this new Reaper Clear, kind of on request of Kathy and I. This is the phthalo green. And then it's the actually pale pink. This is a newer color from Creature Caster / Monument. They have the transparents out, and I've got those too. Maybe we'll play with those. But with Reaper, I guess they discontinued the Maiden Flesh, and people were wondering what could substitute for it, and I said, well, this'll work. Now the nifty thing about this is all I have to do is add a little more of that pink to make it lighter. And let's see what we get. Let's see what we get here. So see, it's another step lighter. You know, sometimes I layer, sometimes I glaze, sometimes I do a little bit of both at the same time. Sometimes there's wet blending. I'm not wedded to any one particular type of brush, technique, medium. The folks that know me, they know I'll just grab whatever the heck is on hand. I don't care. We're not that fussy. As long as paint gets on the palette to the miniature, that's about all I care about. So let's get a little bit of, start to lighten that up just a touch. And yes, I do have, what would you say, smaller, finer brushes, but those are definitely going to stay on the sideline for now. You can see some of this paint here, it's still wet over here. So I can almost use that to blend in some of this new layer. Yeah, so you just did it right there. See a little bit of a scumbling brush stroke right there. Here, I know we need to get this. Come on, there we go. So like I said, these are a reclamation project. Oh hey, First Last is in the house. And you're streaming, yeah, well, geez. I know Kathy, she did her stream today, and actually Goobertown was watching that, and I think he just put up an episode yesterday, right? Then Jason, he was streaming last night, and apparently again today. I was in the other room actually doing a hangout, and I could hear what sounded like his voice in the next room. Unless he was in the next room, I don't know. I think he lives a little bit far away from us to be in the next room. Here, let's do a little bit of reflected light here before we get to all of our... Before we get to the reflected stuff, let's get to the natural reflected light. Yeah, see what we're doing here? Just dropping in some of this. Let's get some more of that blue liner in there. Remember, all this is... And this sometimes this drives people nuts when I refer to all this as just a shaded base coat. Now there's a t-shirt. I watched for 30 minutes and all I got was a shaded base coat. But that's really all this is. All I'm trying to do is figure out what goes where. We haven't added anything that's light. We have plenty of darks. Generally, you want to fish out where those darks are going to be. See what we're starting to do? Get a little bit more of that gray on the interior skeleton there. On the spine. There are still some of the original glazes that we did a half hour ago-ish. Some of those are still wet. Let's carry some of that metal down onto there too. And then you'll see with just each go round here, things get a little bit lighter. Now here too, I have to remember there's going to be some glowing stuff from that. I haven't actually done a Necron Destroyer yet. You can see, or Destroyer Lord. I think I painted a Necron Lord. Now, this is back in Finecast days. We won't speak of that anymore. We'll just leave it there. So thank you very much. Thanks very much, Mandalore. Yeah, words might fail me at times here because it's been a really long day. As I was telling Waleed and Bethany, I was prepping a whole bunch of figures for more videos for Army Painting Series. I just put together a half a dozen Harad cavalry for another Army Painting Series. That's going to be Lord of the Rings, obviously. I put together 20 of the Warcry starter set figures. So you will see some of those coming up here soon. I think first I'll start out with the basing of those, because we wanted to show people how to base those like you would see on the, I don't want to call it the battle mat, but for lack of a better term, the board that comes with the game. So how can you make your bases to look like they belong on that board? Kathy's going to do the one side, the desert side with the blood stuff, and I'm going to do the marble stuff on the other side. And Waleed's going to go, well, of course. What else would they do? I have to do my marble. So this just, we start to creep in a little more with some lights in there. Here, let's dash in a little more lights here along the edge of these guys. Because let's see, it's about 2 now. I don't know. Hopefully there's enough time for at least a discussion on the base. Maybe the base won't be done, but I'd like it to be. So we're just see how we keep building this up here. And look at how far we have to go towards light. So let's just put that over there. See that next to it? Is that not just barely even a middle tone there? So, and if it gets too light too fast, I'm just going to grab a little bit of the blue liner in there. And we're going to continue on this little parade of lighter tones here. Interestingly enough, because we're using that, well, I might just keep referring to it as Made in Flesh, but that pink color to lighten this, it's keeping this from getting too green. It's giving it a little bit different of a tone. Now, this is fully dried, so let's move away from this for a second here. And let's start to think about a little bit of this object source lighting here. So the thing to know is that while this is really thick, it's going to be super transparent. And I mean really transparent. So we have to give it some holding power of its own. That's why we're sneaking in a little bit of that pink there. And now we have to start to think, where is some of this going to end up? Where's some of this going to end up? It's certainly going to end up over here. And fluorescent paint can be kind of wild on camera. So what we're going to do is just map out where we think it's going to go. See how we're going vertical right here? We're thinking in terms of these almost like they're stripes. Now we want to get some here too, but now you can really start to see how transparent some of that is. And what we'll do is, it sounds kind of weird, but you go lighter to go darker. And that's what we're doing here. We're starting out, this seems very light, but it actually does get toned down later. It's the nature of the beast. If this stuff is so transparent, translucent, take advantage of that. Take advantage of that and start out lighter and then go over the top. So here it's almost like we're doing a bit of a, again, not a dry brush. Not a dry brush, but see we got these linear things at play here. And we'll just, sometimes, how far do you continue in effect? See, we just took some of that away. But we know we've got to have it reflected there. It's got to be some here. Got to be some here. But here it's a little more diluted because the source is farther away. Now, I think we are also going to go with the glowing eyes here. So I'm just plopping that there. Let's get some more of the green out here. Definitely are going to need some on the arm here. Let's get this sphere. Because we're just right now we're emphasizing the parts that are light. Certainly here it's going to catch that edge. We got to think about all the edges here on the face. Parts of that carapace, maybe even parts of that, and it might even reflect over to here too. So all this is, it's just to indicate where some of this is going to be. That's all we're doing. And some of this is the very lightest of the lighting effect. There's, again, the orb reflecting down here a bit onto some of these surfaces. And here, not so much, but we'll use that as a bit of a light anyways. Here, we gotta, I just want to catch that edge. And there's still going to be a little bit of that green there. Now let's start to go with some of the, it's a little bit darker, and now see how it starts to look a little more actually green? We had to essentially suffer through the weirdness of the pink green. And as we continue with this, then it's going to start to look more just like, okay, that's the green we're looking for. We can change the temperature of this green too. We can make it a little bit more towards the yellow instead of it being very monolithic. See how that starts to darken that green down. But you can see how, because it's translucent, here, let's get some more of that over here too. See how it starts to change all of this. Same on this side. Take some of the excess away. And here too. I'm going to take a look at the chat in a second. We're just kind of really focusing in on this here. But just the same thing that we were doing up here on this part of the carapace is what we're starting to do now with some of our source lighting. We're toning it down. We started out brighter, and we're just going over the top of it. And it just gets, look at this, how it gets darker. See here, we definitely have to, gonna reflect some green over there too. So now, as we keep working on this, we'll start to see this will emerge more as a lighter point instead of just, well, it's lit on its own. We want it to be a light source or an interest source. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take actually a little bit of that yellow now. And this is going to, this changes it up a little bit. It's going to be a slightly different color green now. You can see how that starts to, it's changing that around now too. Over here. You can see that we still do that scumbling motion. It essentially gives us a little bit of a, it's not dry blending or something like that. It's definitely not a dry brush. Definitely not a dry brush. Let's get a little bit of that yellow into here too. So you can start to see multiple shades of green, multiple temperatures of green. What the heck? I'm even going to put a little bit of that over here too. Now, let's go back to our landscape here. Let's see if we can grab a somewhat different brush here. Not that one. I'm going to go into this carapace here. We'll work out some smoother elements to that. Oh, let's see. I think we will think about indicating a little bit of a line right here too. Now I need some orange in there, as in regular orange. So this is going to be the Pro Acryl orange. I reached over there and I'm like, what's going on here? Oh yeah, that's right. That's fluorescent orange. That would be why it wasn't covering at all. Like that. Now let's get our line down here. Like you do. Let's do our next one over here. Like you do. And hopefully it is reasonably similar in width to what's on the other side. Now we have to do the same over here. And over here. I'm not going to do all the freehand inside there just yet. I had to indicate that before we kind of forgot about it. Don't want to do that. Here, I'll get some, again, some lighter stuff working on that part of the carapace. And I'm going to actually take, this is kind of a bluish white here. Let's get this up here. We'll mix this into our existing color there. And let's see just how light we want something like this to be. I don't want to go too light on these edge highlights here. Just keep that right around the edge. Let's go right along this edge too. And we've added the light. Let's add some dark on the other side of that. And I apologize if this wanders off screen. I'm trying to look at the figure, trying to look at the chat. There's a lot of different things, moving elements to keep track of here. Let's get some shading on that side, some shading on that side. I think we need to tone that down. And on here, let's see if we can't do something fun on this. And the reason I don't fret about that the separation there was I can do that anytime. I don't really need to be doing that now. Or worried about that now. Let's get... I'll get a little bit lighter as we go up towards the top here. Yeah, let's get this. Reason I just wasn't worried about is because all we have to do is do something like blue liner here. And poof, you got your separation back. So you do the easy part first, and well, then you keep doing the easy parts instead of just trying to do it the really hard way. Because I see plenty of people that seem to really enjoy doing things the really hard way. Me, I don't have time to do things the hard way, so I try to do those as easy as possible. I'm going to do the same thing along here. We're just going to get ourselves some darks on our horizon line here. Here's... I'm going to use this. Where are we at? There we are. I might have to put out some more of the brown liner. Now let's develop this horizon line a little bit here. So again, the important thing is to have interruptions in it instead of the continuous line. That's just something that I've learned since I did that first one that you see on in the references there in what, 2012. See, we continue our horizon line over there. And almost like a little bit of a spire there or something. Almost like there's we got a wall. And make those actually darker again. We need some darks here. So all it takes is just a couple of brush strokes here and there, and all of a sudden, bam, it makes such a big difference. I think we want some darks in here too, so I'm just going to take some of the blue liner and we'll just shade some of this darker. Just to have it there. And now we can maybe go into stuff that's a little bit lighter here. And also stuff that involves our object source lighting. Got this little your Necron symbol in the chest there. Let's go even a little lighter. I'm putting some of that maggot white in there to keep I want that to get too yellowish green. Here, let's get some little stuff going on the orb there, like it's got that crackling energy or whatever. I assume it's some kind of maybe a resurrection orb or whatever. Again, it's been a long time. I'd have to refresh my memory on that. It's been a very long time. And like I said, these are not exactly pristine, brand new figures. These are a reclamation project, so they were mostly destroyed when I got them. So all of this is just trying to breathe some new life into these. Yeah, let's get a little more light on those little blades that I added to it there, just for fun. Once again, we gotta make sure we get the light in the areas. I just realized that you have some old dark yellow space. Yeah, there's they are very old. Well, that was I did do an entire Dark Eldar army, and I had discovered that the brand new stuff was compatible with the old stuff size wise. So when it came to some of the special weapons, I was able to make more of those because the special weapons still worked with the old bodies. So yeah, it was a neat look. It was a neat sort of combined look there, but also, well, it saved some cash because I got twice as many figures basically out of the same army. That that never stinks. That's not a horrible thing. Here, let's get a little more of the light effect in down in there. Let's get a bit more of it onto this section here. Yeah, that's a little better. We're just trying to use the transparent nature of that in our favor. Again, trying to get the light down in between the fingers there. Let's see if we can't make this even lighter now, because we've gone nowhere near white. That's the idea, is to give ourselves as much room as possible to play with. I think you can start to see how the lights on this are starting to develop too. And the whole while we've been doing this, we've worked all across the whole figure. We haven't just focused in, zeroed in, locked in on one section. We've tried to keep that moving. Let's get a little touch of that on the opposite side. Maybe even start to think about those edge lights. Here, let's work in some. Definitely got to get more light on the arm there. It's so darn close to the orb. But again, thinking in terms of these linear markings. Yeah, let's get some over here. Then we'll go in and we'll do the darker markings too, or darker recesses in that. See what we got here? We have sort of a light dark, light dark. We have alternating lines. Same thing here. Certainly this needs, I'm gonna try and catch a few edges here. This thing is so old. It's oh my gosh, it's got just dust on it. I was cleaning some of the dust and hair and all kinds of stuff off of these things. They were that old. They just been sitting around forever. I think now, probably at this point, you really start to see what it is that we've been working towards all this time. Yeah, let's... You need a few of these, a few sets of green over here, like that. There we go. Gonna brush some of that on here. It's up there. And you can see it's a darker green because it's further away from the light source. And then we can just as easily find a few areas where it should be a little lighter. And all this is, here, let's get some glowing light in his eyes too. I think we need to lighten up this area here by the orb somehow. I don't even know if you can see that. Might be a little difficult for you. Sometimes I just have to hold things where it's harder for you to see them. And I apologize about that when that happens. It just kind of does. Now, let's grab some of this lighter color here and see some areas of our horizon line start to stand out. So here's almost like we're doing some windows there. We're sort of breaking up that shape. So almost now it looks more like it's almost on fire. I added a little bit of the snakebite leather to that. Yeah, I don't have the halberds with me that have all of the kind of the reflected light and everything on them. That all kind of got put away. I just needed to make room for the new projects, so I don't necessarily have all of my little props with me that I would normally have. There, see that works its way up. Now let's take a little more of the snakebite leather there. And we just sort of fade that up this way. Now let's think about some of our little bits of freehand here. Now I'm going to grab wherever the heck that went. Here it is. Can you see this? It's basically, obviously, just a bunch of circles, really. And let's see what we can do. Let's go here. And we'll go like this. Go and make sure it's where you can see it. And again, it's always just kind of best to sketch these things out sooner rather than later. And I'm working this off of a design that I see on the texture roller, which is good because that means it's going to be consistent with the base. And we have ourselves a circle up here. And instead of necessarily sketching out the circles there, I'll just go in with some green or whatever and do that. So I'm going to do a dot here and a dot there. We'll play a little connect the dots. Then we've got a larger circle here. And then, actually it looks like a line, and then we have actually a triangle right here. And that actually has its own little circles on the end. And then we've got sort of a V shape here. Yeah, we'll do the solid circles here, which can then be turned into something else. So you see that's just a real quick freehand there that we can tap into later and make some alterations to it. Now let's do a different design here. So I'm going to start with a larger circle there. Like so. This is relatively thin down. Alright, and we've got ourselves another small circle with the lines coming out like this. And then we'll do one of these inverted triangle there with the circles on the ends. Again, hoping you can see what it is that I'm doing there. Lead it into another circle. I'll have the knobs off the side of that now. It's kind of a smaller circle here with one of those. I know these are all highly thrilling terms that we're using. One of those, a little of this. That's just kind of how it goes sometimes when you're doing freehand. Especially a design you've never, well, you clearly haven't done in a very long time. But that's one way to just get your design scribed in there very quickly. You know, let's think about on the shoulder pads here. Or shoulder carapace, maybe we should refer to it as. I have to make that extra small. Here, let's go with the big circle. And the reason we didn't do this right away, well, we had to see where that glow was going to be, and if the glow was going to wipe all this stuff out, what was the point of doing it in the first place? So sometimes you just have to see where things are going to go and then work from there. Instead of, well, again, that's the reason why people don't do things like the object source lighting or the freehand, because they think, oh my gosh, I've done all this stuff and now I've just ruined it, that sort of thing. We don't want to have that. So this again, Green Stuff World Texture Roller. That's the extra firm gray Sculpey. That is what we made our base out of here. So that's going to be what he's going to fly on, and the color's going to be like this. So I'm going to get some of this stuff out of my way here. I may bring it back over time, but I need to get back into some. Here we go. That's again that snakebite leather. What's left of that. We're just trying to give ourselves a little more transition here on these bits. Don't want it to get too light because then the orange won't stand out. That I'm going to make that just a touch lighter right in there. And now we're going to actually try and reflect a little bit of that yellow onto there. I'm going to do the same over here. And we're certainly going to do the same over here. And here. It's almost a little bit like that, the fire of the environment now is maybe starting to work its way onto the actual metals here a little bit. Things start to look a little more different now. A little more interesting. Well, at least you hope they do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I think they kind of sort of do. I'm going to catch myself a couple of little lights here just before I forget. Don't want to forget that. And I think probably off camera, I don't know if it'll be difficult to do it on camera, is to really get down in there with some nice darks. We'll see, maybe we can. Need to get that lighter too. See a nice little sharper line. Spread this around. Let's get ourselves another brighter line along here. So again, the whole point of this is less of it being just that smooth. It just made, as I looked at that, I said, well, yeah, that looks really neat, but there's really not a whole lot going on there. At least hopefully with this, maybe it looks more like some kind of ruined landscape. And that just makes it a little more interesting. Here, let's get a little. I need to actually kind of go the other way here. We're going to go a little darker now. That's on the opposite side of this little border here. I'm going to see what we can do cleanup wise. And then maybe this is where it starts to look a little more like clouds. As opposed to just the sky. And maybe we'll do a little bit of some kind of reflected light under there, but see now how your orange line starts to show up a little bit more. Now we are going to take just some of that, and then we shade some of this. like that. So now even your freehand starts to have a little bit of shading to it, instead of just looking like it's a decal just stuck on there, because that doesn't help a whole bunch. We'll just temporarily, real quick here, restore a couple of these. Separate this a little bit before we get back into some of our light colors here. We need to, like I said, see how it's light, dark, light. We can't have it all just be, right towards one or the other. I used to make all these soft transitions there, and then I realized, well, wait a minute. Oh, the thingy on the what's. Yeah, yeah, highly technical terms. The do thingy on that do thingy. I'm just glad you're actually able to get a chance to see this, because gee whiz, the last one was really just a few minutes you could hang out on that. At a certain point, then you get into that. It's a little more, you can see it becomes a little more, I don't want to say relaxed, but less frenetic. And now this is where we get some of these lighter colors here, and we start to figure out, all right, where should some of these really lights go? And we're only just now getting towards that. White is always, well, I try never to really use white, but I certainly will save that much further into the process, because it just has such a gigantic impact on everything else. And let's do a case in point here. So we've got this mixing in with our fluorescent green. We thought we had plenty of light here. No, we can get far more light than that. And see just how much lighter we can get. Even in the eyes. Here, let's think about what we're doing on this weapon here. Let's see if we can't get some things a little darker on that. So still mixing in the fluorescent with that, but now a little darker. Now maybe we'll go even darker than that. Let's get, just overall, we'll make that a little bit darker. So that maybe it's not glowing quite as intensely as the orb. Even going to take a little bit of, that's just some of my blue liner there. Can make it even a little darker. So now even this starts to, well, there's a little more mystery as to what's going on there. Instead of it just being quite so bright and glowing. There. Let's make that, I think we need to get a little more darks in a couple of places here, if that's possible. like in here. I also want to get a few, and again, I almost kind of hold my breath here a little bit so that I can get into some of these places. Here, let's get back into my greens. I'll check out the chat real, and okay. Sometimes on these it can be a little hard sometimes to keep up to speed on the chat and everything. So if I miss a question or anything like that, just bear with me. I'll try and work my way back around towards it. So let's get to just some metal colors here. Now back to some couple of lighter colors here again. Let's do this side. And I'm really not going to focus too much on the bottom here. There's just so many other things that's going on, and I think I'd probably rather see, if anything else, rather see the base get painted than me just painting the underside of this thing. Now we are trying to get a little bit of reflected light underneath on some of these. Here, let's get some more up here. See if we can't get, this is that, basically it's a titanium white. It is the Pro Acryl stuff. Here, let's make sure that we've got, yeah, a few of our lights there. Let's put in just a couple. Maybe that sort of encourages that look of it's something's on fire. So I hope this, yeah, looks like it's, well, relatively on screen. Like I said, if it wanders away, I apologize for that. Let's see if we've got, I'm trying to get some of this Archelian green here. It's basically sort of a sky blue. Where is that? Nope, that's the purple. Where are you? Here you are. Got some of this. We don't need much of it. I'm just looking for a little bit. That's all. I'm going to mix this with the... That's it. I just needed a little bit of a different blue color here. And that's it. Yeah. So that's almost sort of a sky blue type color. Just looking to do something a little different here. Some of these spots. Here, let's lighten that up. Looking for, I was trying to, on here on his head, on this part of the spine here, and just trying to find some different colors to play with. Still want to work in some purple, I believe. Ah, the blade, that's the other thing. I knew I was forgetting something. Oh, how late is it here? It is merely 2:41. It's gonna be a lot later, that's for sure, as we keep trying to hammer away at this guy here. I think it may be at around, I don't know, 320 or so. I'll try and see what I can do with the base, and see if people would be entertained by watching that get painted. So how you doing, Greg? Or I hope that is pronounced correctly. Because, well, as you can see, it's not super early here, so the things with the words sometimes go astray. Yeah, get a little darker in there for that. Yeah, don't want to go too crazy too fast with that. Let's go a little lighter with this. This again, that Kilian green. That's mixed with a little bit of the Pro Acryl white. I'm gonna put some more of that. I think it is just titanium white. Let me see wherever the heck that went. Here it is. Yep, bold titanium white. And we're gonna throw a little more of that up over here in the corner. We don't want to get too much in there. Just we want to avoid relying on a whole bunch of white. That's why I try to use, well, basically white that has a color to it. What I'm trying to do is to get a few. Let's move this over this way. I want to get myself a few. That's it. See what's happening there. Look at that. A brighter little edge. It starts to make that seem that much more metallic. That is one of the things. It's all about your non-metallic effects. There is to have those dramatic lights. And I'll see how that plays off of the yellow that's in there too. Here, let's make sure we get gotta get this edge along that blade too, for sure. Yeah, these fingers need to get some highlights on them as well. We got on the edges of his skull there. Now, we've got our fluorescent green. Let's get some more strong light on the orb here. Oh, let's see if we can't find ourselves a few more strong lights along the side of this, on the sides of his arm. Again, go back into the titanium white. I need some stronger. That's it. I knew there was something missing here. That's more like it. Certainly need some here too. Now I did this on the other side. Let's try and do a similar thing over here. No painting for me tonight. School reunion is happening. Well, I hope you enjoy the reunion. You never quite know, I guess. I haven't actually done any school reunion ever, now that I think about it. Now, I do, a lot of the folks, like when I was at the academy and, geez, even in high school, I still see a lot of those folks all the time, or at least now and then. So I think it's not quite so vital to have a reunion be sort of the way to keep in touch. Sometimes, though, that's the only way, because you move to a different town, or lots of folks do. Here, I need to get myself my, yeah. Let's find ourselves a couple of really bright areas on the staff here. That's better. Let's see if we can. Let's get some more of the. Again, this is the fluorescent paint that is from scale 75. It does work differently, gotta say, than my usual Vallejo stuff. It certainly is different. You get a touch of yellow in there. I want to make this bit a little lighter here. But you can see how transparent that is, even with the lighter colors added to it. Still wants to be very transparent. I'm going to walk this up into there a little more. Okay. We're adding just something here to take down some of the white. It just got to be a little bit too white. Didn't want that to be that much white. Now let's grab ourselves, get one of these, see if we can't find ourselves a smaller brush somewhere. We take some of the blue liner. Let's reinforce some of these lines here. And yeah. Oops, I see we got some over here we forgot. I'm also waiting on a shipment of brushes. Now, while by we, meaning me, I use the large brushes for the vast majority of things. I still do use small brushes. However, most of mine are mostly destroyed. It's just, that's the rate of painting that we do here. And by we, meaning me. So I'm waiting on some replacements. Now remember we were talking about doing the little dark dots there inside things like these in the freehand. It's a whole lot easier than trying to draw around that, needless to say. And where just, circle's not quite perfect or whatever. See how we can clean this up now. We're just going, we kind of bounce around from one element to the next here. We don't want to stay engaged in one spot too long. You start to get that tunnel vision. And you start to forget about everything else until you realize, oh, well, yeah, maybe I kind of overdid it there. Because you weren't really locked into the whole piece, you were locked into part of the piece. Now, I wonder, I'm going to try to do a little thing here with, because we do have the smaller brush now. Just going to try and refine a few of these areas here. All it is that same creature caster, monument, paint, a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of the orange. I can see I need to do a couple little dots right here. So don't feel shy about, you're like, well, we'll restore that line right there. We're gonna make this line a little more solid. Yeah, we've got these little, like that. Gonna go into my, here, let's get some of the snakebite leather. That's the enter contrast paint. Gonna do that in here too. And now let's get some of that blue lantern. Make sure it's not too watery or anything like that. Redo some of these separation lines here. And for those of you that are new here, I'm doing a whole, actually a couple of series on the Necrons. I want to cover the non-metallic, but also the TMM slash true metallic. And that is going to be an interesting challenge because, well, we've got object source lighting to do on it. And I've already filmed the first episode. That's already gone up for the patrons for Series 13. That's always the basing episode. The next episode is always a color test figure. So that's basically a figure you say, well, this is the scheme I want to do. It's where you find out, is it A, practical, and B, is it something you want to do? Does it look the way you want it to look? So see, we're just, now we've started to find a few areas where some darks are interesting. Oh, what do we want to do in there? I think we'll make that also a dark. Find ourselves another dark over there. Here's where we're just making a little bit of a change there. It seemed, yeah, I like that a little bit better now. I'm going to try and find some more. There's got to be some more interesting little reflections in here too. We need some lights along the edge of this guy here also. We got him on the other side. We need him here. Right along there. Gonna find myself a few areas where I can. Yeah, we need some dark here too, because we can't always just keep adding light. Sometimes you've got to go in there with some dark. And speaking of dark, let's see if I can't just get myself some dark colors down in there. That just, it looks too similar to everything else. Just gonna shove that down in there. Yeah, another area where I think I want a little more something in there. Let's grab this. I think. Oh, what the heck? What is this? Vulpus pink. Let's throw it out there. See what's gonna happen. I'm not even gonna pour it on. I'm just gonna throw a little bit out here. We'll mix it with some of our lighter coat. Here we go. I'll throw just a touch of blue in there so it's not too pinkish. And my goal is, yeah, a few places here in my metals, because I always like to have some pink in the metals for whatever reason. Don't know what it is, but boy does it just seems to add a bunch of extra shape, more interest to the metals. And once again, sticking with that sort of lateral, linear type of stroke there. It's not even really going to be noticeable. Let's see if we can take a little more of the Achillean green and tone that down, and we'll just do a few lighter areas there. Again, they're none the wiser. They don't really know there's pink there. Oh my gosh, pink. But we do need some reflected light here. Oh, yeah. Let's get some light along that edge. And the leading edge of this. I'm just gonna do this. And as I said, just in the lead up to this is a reclamation project. These figures were mostly destroyed when I got them. We're just trying to breathe a little bit of life back into them here. And I will, let's see. I'll do on Instagram. I always like to post a bit of a gallery on these things so you can get a chance to see what they look like when they're done. So you can check out that on Instagram there, just Wapelius Instagram. I actually could just do a link for you in the description. Once this thing is done and it's processed and everything else, I can go in and add some links for you. But see, right now we're taking a little bit of that pink, we're throwing it right down into those crevices there. And I know it just sounds really crazy, but trust me, have faith. Yeah, most people don't trust him, he's crazy. Well, yeah, that's true. I like to think of it more as sanity challenged. Let's see if I can't get myself a couple of deep recess lights there. Like I said, not really going to focus on the underside of that because, well, there's only so many hours because it's 3 and we still wanted to get to the base. Still wanted to mess with that somehow. But now that I've got most of this reasonably well established with the glow and everything, we're just going to go in here with a touch more detail. Here, let's go back into some of our fluorescent here to see if we can't get some shading on the side of the head. And then, let's get some of the titanium. Some of that titanium white that's mixed with our glowing color there. What I think I need to do is, believe it or not, I need to get a little bit of that's it. Yeah. I actually needed to get a darker glaze right there because and I've told this story about the person who was in one of my, I think it was a non-metallic metal class, and he just, no matter what he did, he could not get any contrast. He said, man, I'm using white. Why am I getting no contrast? And I said, well, because it's pretty much white against white. So see what that did right there? I had just a couple of darker brush strokes and poof, all of a sudden, then we had shape where there was no shape. Shape is good. We want shape. Now these fingers need to be darkened down. It kind of helps to make the orb look a little more luminous. And I am going to see if I can do a little bit of, not necessarily darker shading on the orb. I'm just trying to make it look. Here, let's get some yellow into that. Just like it has a little bit of, there we go. A little more of the lightning type look to it. Here, let's darken this down. Remember we said we start out with it being much lighter and then we can darken it down from there. That's what we're doing here. So again, I apologize if this goes off camera or anything like that. I just wanted to darken down the eyes so that I can actually then brighten them up again, believe it or not. But I want to have them be a little more yellow. And more just kind of in one area. So we'll just do that. Here, there's my titanium white that I've been looking for. Gotta get down in between these fingers here somehow. Because as usual, we've got and with the old style kits is this sort of blend of metal and plastic, which can be a little weird to work with sometimes. Here's some of my titanium white again. Trying to find myself some highlights on here. right down along this edge. Sometimes if it's a little broken like that, maybe it indicates, I don't know, battle damage or whatever. Sometimes it's more interesting when it actually has a little bit of a flaw in the line. No, don't want that. I almost made that way too. That's better. Darn near got too light with that. We'll hit that on the other side. Let's see. Remember we were talking about the clouds or some kind of reflected fire there. Let's see what happens here. So okay, we're working on our landscape over here. And we're gonna highlight the undersides of these. Let's do that over here. We don't want to go too heavy on that. This might be as much as I want to do. And that's it. Now I could spend hours and hours more here. I mean, I could spend 10 more hours on this thing, doing all kinds of different stuff. But that's why I do the army painting series, because we actually time out the different effects. How long did that take? Well, okay, it took 15 minutes. Okay, it took 10 minutes. Doesn't sound like much until it's 10 times 10, 20, 30. That now you see kind of the arithmetic that we're talking about here. And I always try and remind all during the entire army painting series how long something has taken. And is it worth it? Did that give us, did those 20 minutes per figure, is that worth it? If you're going for a best painted army or whatever, well, okay, then something like that is worth it. But if you just want to have it look sort of nifty, but really have it just on the table, then maybe those 15 minutes per figure, that's just too much. And you simplify things. Or you just leave that particular effect on a unit leader, champion, whatever. But when you do sign up for that Army Painter Pledge level, if you choose to do so, at your own risk, do you immediately get over 200 hours worth of video links? Which, and I believe it was just earlier this month that it surpassed that, pretty much officially passed the 200-hour mark. Because, well, we're on Series 13 already. And each army painting series is basically 5 episodes. I also have other specialty things, like videos on Darksword miniatures. Well, we're on episode 25. So, well, you do the math there. I think you see where this is all leading. It's all leading to, there's a whole bunch of freaking videos. Covers everything. Freehand, basing, metallics, non-metallics, object source lighting, different combinations of things, because sometimes you have to combine those techniques. Actually, for the heck of it, let's see if I can't get a little touch of green down in there. I don't know if you can see it. A little touch of green in there. Yeah, I'm glad I did that, because it's almost like the orb somehow snuck a little bit of light in there. Where's that pink? Want to get some of that down in here too. Now this, oh yeah, I need some dark over here. We are going to add that in now. Oh yeah, that really needed that. Oh my goodness. It's another one of those things where something's looking a little weird. And that's when I realized, yeah, it's because there's just not enough dark there. That really settles things down. And don't be afraid to go back and forth. Okay, we added some dark. Well, maybe then we have to go back and work a little mid-tone in there or a little more whatever. You don't want to end up overworking things, of course. Let's just solidify a few lines here. And I think I've got to, let's see if I can take a little lighter version of that pink right into here. That's all yeah, that is what I'm looking for. Now, back to a touch of this titanium white. That's it. Oh, we certainly need on that side. We are going to actually just shade that whole thing to a darker green around the edges. Like you do. Now that that has dried, let's see if I can't sneak that, yeah, yellow glow into the eyes. Get maybe a little more, something yellow on his staff here. All I want to do is just to have some different tones on this. Maybe even a little touch of reflected light on the underside of the staff here. Like I said, sometimes you find yourself kind of working back and forth, seeking. Yeah, you say, okay, like over here, maybe we want to have, just like we did in the lower section of the spine on the other side, we're going to do that on the upper section of the spine here. A little touch of that green reflecting there. Why not? Maybe it's not technically reaching that far. Oh, but what the heck? Sometimes, and I think I've already said how much I just try not to do the whole artistic license thing. So that's a little bit of the wildwood there. And just kind of reinforce these darker lines of the spine. So it makes those highlights stand out a bit more. What do we got over here? What we don't have is enough. I think we're missing a little bit of darks right here. Again, that's the wildwood there. Looking for places to, like this. Well, we are missing some of our darker lines. Heck, maybe even on the weapon. Yeah, I know it's supposed to be glowing, but now we've got the, again, it's the Achillean green. We're taking some of the white here. Let's see if we can't make that blade have a, there we go, a little more of a transition from light to dark. This is another one of those dark Eldar bits that I just added on at the time. I believe it was probably part of a Reaver jet bike or something, because yeah, it was Reaver jet bike crazy. That was a really weird army. Definitely under the category of did not work at all. Actually, not really. It wasn't actually my choice. Those were the figures I had. Try to make them work. Sometimes you just can't make things work. Once again, tapping some of these, a little bit of sparkly things. Again, another highly technical painting term, sparkly things. Yeah, let's a couple of here. Let's get that edge. And as I said, I could really mess around with this for a long, long time. Way longer than you would be able to watch. And I think what I will do is just, yeah, it's about 320, so let's see if we can't mess around with his base. So we've got that. Let's just set that aside out of harm's way. And we're going to grab the base over here. So this should be very fun. Well, it's going to be for me anyways. Now this is the fluorescent yellow, or the fluorescent orange, and some of the creature caster orange. Now I'm probably going to have to maybe throw some more of that out there. But the general idea is to get this down into all of those crevices. See what I can do here. Take some of that away. And I could even take the yellow, mix it with the orange if need be, but the most important thing is get that stuff down into all of those recesses. Otherwise, you'll have a bit less success. It's not quite going to translate the way we want it to. So we'll just do that. Again, wipe some of it away with the idea that it eventually starts to look like this when we get our darker green over the top of it. So let's find ourselves our, wherever the heck our orange is here. There we go. Sorry, I gotta have me something to drink here. Yes, that was right into the microphone. But it's 3:21 in the morning here, so I call privilege. Anyone else that is staying up that late to watch, I appreciate it. Just take my thumb. I could use one of the makeup sponges that I've got too, that you can really see that get down into those, down into the crevices there. It stays behind. And again, that is this Green Stuff World texture roller here. And there is your gray extra firm Sculpey. I do a lot of basing technique episodes with the Sculpey sheets. Again, check out the Patreon page. I even have one level that's just, it's all about basing because I really love basing. It means a lot to me. To me, they're like basically miniature dioramas. Every single figure I feel can be that way. Now I'm going to try and get a little extra. You can see we've gone into the yellow now. And what we're trying to do is emphasize that maybe in a few locations here. Just in a few, make it a little bit lighter. Yeah, let's get some of that into the floor here too. That's better. Oh, some on that side. Now, what I also want to do is get out some of the brown liner and such, and we'll do the rest of this here too. So let me find some of my browns here. Oh, we already have that brown out there. So let's go with some blue liner. I'll just throw some of this transparent dark brown out here. There we go. We'll just get that down into here. Just like that. It's going to look really, really, really dark next to all that orange and such. But remember, we've got that dark green that's coming in. Got plenty of darker colors on their way. Now here, not as watery, because as I found out when I was doing the basing episode, well, yeah. If it was too watery, it went right down into all of those little crevices and just kind of leaked all the way down there, and that wasn't fun. Oh, that was definitely no good. So yeah, didn't want that to happen again. See, we'll just let that mix right there. I can put some rust if I want to on the other side of this. But for now, all I want to do is just get a little bit of this non-green marble color down in here. Making it relatively dark. Here, let's get that a little more on screen for you so you can see it. All right. And this is primed with pretty much at the same time as the figure itself. Here, we'll just let a few, even some streaks work their way down. So you can see that should be pretty nice over the top of that. Now I do have to make sure all of that orange stuff is dry before I mess around with this part. So yeah, let's play with this here first as we wait for the orange to dry. So there, now you can see that. I'm just letting that sort of blend. It's a little bit of wet into wet blending there. Sort of painting the streaks by default by not painting the streaks. Just letting that all tie together. Let's get a little touch of the Archelian green there to make that not quite so, well, same color as the wall. And then maybe we will mix up a a bit of a rust color there for the back of that. But I'm going to see if that is now dry enough. We're taking some of the green there. That is that phthalo green. And I got to actually dry this out enough. And the idea is, see as I go over this now, for the most part, now some of it does inevitably get maybe wiped out. You know, the green fills in a crevice here and there, whatever. But see if I take this nice sort of sideways brush stroke. Ah, that's better. So it basically just leaves the orange down in the crevices. Oh, hey there, miniatures, conversions and dioramas. 20 past 10 in the morning. Oh, singing piranha. Sorry, I've got Necron pariahs on the brain. So if you're wondering why I said that, greetings from Belgium, much appreciated. I don't know if you guys, I know last summer the heat wave was a big thing, and then it was really pretty brutal again this summer. Massive records, especially sort of in that north central Europe. It seemed to be really just unbelievably warm temperatures. So see how that starts to, we're getting closer to that. Because we want to have some variety in this green. See, we're doing the darker portion of that now. Look at how that orange really starts to show up. Really starts to show up. We'll just keep adding some more of this green. Then we have the vertical surface to do. Can't forget that. I got this side over here. Again, all part of that green stuff world texture roller. There we are. Gotta make sure this, again, it's just a cheap old craft brush. That's what we've really used for most of this. Here, let's get a nice, it's gotta be quick. Has to be direct. You only get so many shots at this. Again, too many and you're gonna lose all that orange in there. You can paint it back in later. It's not like you can't do that. But as I mentioned, those army painting videos, when I did the basing episode, I just was trying to keep track of how long did that take. And it took, as you can see, it takes a whole lot less time to do this than to go right into all of those little lines and try and paint those. Much less time. Well, just think of the freehand that we did, and I'll show you in a second. And it pretty much took longer to do those little freehand designs there than it did kind of do this whole thing on a base. So, something to keep in mind. Yeah, let's finish that off. Now we want to get some of this kind of a marble effect here. Means we have to lighten this up. Now, I'm just going to throw, what is that? Bright warm gray. Let's put some of this out here. And that's going to mix in with our, here, let's get some of that. Don't need much. This is our, oh, what is that? That's the phthalo green. Don't want this to be too light at this point, but you can see how that brush is nice and flattened out. Here, I gotta keep this on an angle where you can see it, but I got to the same. But look at, see how that gives us more of a bluish green now. doesn't wipe out the orange underneath. But you can see we're doing sort of a feathered brush stroke at the same time, but we're not doing it everywhere. See, look, this is even going to go in the opposite direction here. So what I'm trying to set up is basically doing what's going to end up looking a little bit like veins of marble. At least that is the plan. We shall see. Now, I'll go one level lighter here. You can see I'm actually going off to the side here. Just trying to get this to where you can see it ideally. That's better. Like that. Now, here, I think you can see the edge of the brush right there. Scumbled at it. I'm not going to do too much here with the lighter color, just a little bit there. And then a bit right there. Now, I won't do any more with that. We're actually going to go the opposite way here. We're going to take some darker version of that. Okay, I'm going to actually throw a little bit more of my original phthalo green out there. Yeah, mixing it that really dark brown. I'm going to get rid of the excess. Now we're going to go the opposite way here. Hopefully that shows up what's going to happen. See that? See how that becomes a sharper line? Like so. Here, let's get some of the darker green back there. We're going to do an equal thing over here. Now, yeah, we got to do that here. Tricky. Have to reverse the angle of the brush here. Let's make sure that works. And again, if it covers up the orange, I can always just go back in there, whatever. Let's darken some of this down. You can see how we're virtually using just the very side of that brush. So see how we've got some darker greens in there? Now, let's find ourselves, something along the way of another liner type brush thing. I think I've got that brush in the in a whole nother area here. Oh, this is, yeah, we'll just use this guy here. Something like this. It's a liner brush. And this is that same lighter color that we used. And the idea is to go along this edge. And this is where we create what looks more like the smaller veins of the marble. Too much and it will conflict with the orange designs. So we don't want that. You notice I'm moving really fast here, because if I move slowly, it is just going to sink right down in the crevice and it'll just cover up the orange stuff. Not what we're looking for. And a liner brush, if you're wondering what that is, it's a longer brush that has a finer tip on it. You saw me before when I was working on the mid-shadow. It was more of a spotter. Not really a big fan of those, because you can see you can't get much paint into that brush. And there's just so much freedom of movement with a brush like this. And you can see now this is the same thing I do on all my marble painting techniques. We just happen to have, well, some Necron runes underneath it. And if need be, you get some water in there to make sure it flows, but not too much, because again, it's going to go right down into all those crevices. So see how that kind of gives you some veins of marble like that? Now, while that sort of dries, why don't we see what we can do in terms of maybe adding a little bit of a rust to this. And we've got the snakebite leather. Let's grab, and I know this is interesting. Not the Flesh Tear Red. I'm looking for the Fire Slayer Flash, which is this, which can sometimes be a little bit of an interesting rust color. I want to get some red into this too. So let's see if we can find ourselves just any old red. Something that's red. Oh, like this. Burnt red. Let's get some of that out here. I'll let that mix with the contrast stuff. Here we are. And now let's push that around. But you can see how that's transparent there. It's that is the Fire Slayer flesh working its way through. And let's do a little more of a watery type thing. So that, here, let's do some rust streaks this way. And we don't want it to necessarily be even and smooth because rust does weird things. Now, Secret Weapon also has a whole line of things like rust. So here's the orange rust. Let's play with some of this now. Play with some of that. And actually, the thing is, while that is still wet, let me grab a little bit of this. And now we'll let those mix together. Now, if you check out my previous live session to this, where we did the Mad Max vehicles, we did a whole bunch of rust and other things like this. A lot of it. So you can check that out too. I try to have a few end screens where you can just click on the end screen and see another video that's related. But here, let's get ourselves a couple of bits of rust down into here, maybe. Yeah, let's get a touch lighter with that. So sort of like we have our oxidization process at work. I mean, this will work just fine on vehicles right here too. Let's go back with a bit of lighter stuff here. Now that I don't want to be too light, but I do want, sometimes I just like to have those bit of lighter rust in with the darker rust. I can't go too crazy with the lighter rust color here, mostly because, well, it's a little bit similar to our orange. That's why I want to stick more with the darker rust here, and maybe even I could have, oh gosh, the rebar and stuff sticking out of there too, but I am going to make this a little bit darker in some places. Again, go with some streaks here. All the while keeping in mind that there is a figure that's going to be sitting on top of this. Maybe we'll do a few dark streaks this way. Here, let's get a touch of the green in there too. You could use weathering powders on this, especially down into this part of it down in here. It's at this point it becomes so subjective or entirely up to you what it is that you want to do with your own thing. But I am going to see if I can't get some lighter rocks in here. I did use some crackle paint in this. The benefit, I suppose, of the weathering powders, it gives you just one extra texture. And like I say, if you check out the video there on those Mad Max vehicles, you'll see that pretty much at work there too. There, I just want to get a little bit of the yellow into that. And let's get this one stage lighter in a few spots. I don't want the rocks to stand out a lot or even the mud effects, but here this is where, if we use the weathering powders, you could have almost like a little bit of a dust effect lead in. What the heck? No, that's going to be too light. There's a little bit of a hex pattern here. I'm going to try and bring some of that out. A little bit. And as I said, I could have carved more runes on this side or even had that texture be on the other side. It's all just Sculpey clay. Again, all that stuff is over where my basing area is. That is so... Learn the hard way that that's pretty messy, and it's best to do basing videos with a different machine and setup than here, where all the painting videos are done. I want to get a little bit of light on this. Can't all necessarily be dark. Now I do want to... I'm just going to get some stuff here along the edge of the base. Because that orange there is going to be very distracting. That's better. That gets rid of most of the orange pretty well. We'll get some more black, basically a little bit of staining, although again a bit of black weathering powder would really make it look like soot. And what I want to do, we'll grab our figure over here. Just remember again, that's going to go right up on top there. Gonna let the base go off to the side to dry for a little bit, and let's return to the miniature here. And we'll play with some things on this. This essentially is a few little... See how what that is? It's some glazing with the fluorescent paint. what it does is tie some things together. Here, let's go back to a few of these areas. See how it just sort of tints that? It's not super intense. It's a suggestion, basically. Because the paint itself is already so transparent, and now you're basically glazing it on the top, so it's really it'll influence it, but not too much. See, we're doing that same thing here. See how it just kind of rides over the top, like there we go. Now you can see it. A little more here. Now, obviously, I can't do 100% of everything that I want to do here, just because there's only so much time. But you see here how in just a few hours, I mean, we did the base, we did freehand, we did object source lighting, we were doing non-metallic metals. And not every video that I do is just a one-part thing like this. I have a whole bunch of stuff that is multi-part. I've got the creature caster videos that are actually at least 3 parts each. So that way we don't have to really zoom through it quite as much as we're doing here. And this really is down and dirty fast. Even the army painting videos, those are a little more tranquil than this. Not quite so high speed. And this really is like a high-speed chase. It's like Grand Theft Necron or something. And once again, doing a little bit of that. A little bit of glazing in here. Finding some areas that maybe could be a little darker, a little more subtle. This is really the fun part. At least to me it is. This is really the fun part where you get to just play around with something like this. I want some reflected light in here. This is basically the original sepia liner that we threw out there at the start. Yeah. So I think you can see what's happening here. We're working in a little bit of reflected light here, just taking some of the a little bit lighter. It's almost a wet into wet. Just gonna scumble that in. And like I said, I'm looking forward to doing some Necrons in oil painting style. That's going to be really fun. I've done 3 army series now. Oh, thanks, Bethany. Well, I hope that work is not too much of a challenge there, the new job. But thanks again for stopping in. And, well, you'll be seeing more of this for sure. So stay safe. Yeah, let's get ourselves definitely a little more transition up here on this bit. I need to go light. Oh, what the heck? Let's go with some yellow there. Didn't want it to get too warm, but that's okay. And as I do use the different types of paint, I have to always think what's their properties, and the main property of the creature caster paints, as long as they're not the transparent ones, they cover like really well. So I have to be aware of that. And I do mean really well. Here, let's do a little something with our line here. And well, we'll use a liner brush. Yeah, I don't want to emphasize that too much up there because that is supposed to be heading into some shadow. Yeah, that's just too much of one value there. We got to get some more, something along those lines. Just had no shape to it at all. It was just dead. We don't want that. Well, let's get ourselves a little, yeah. We've been reflecting the yellow onto the spine, but not onto the ribs here, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going to rectify that now. Yeah, let's smooth this out a little bit here. And it's just a semi-glaze of that sort of yellow color there. I'm also going to, we need to hit this line here. Can't just be dark like that. Doesn't really make a lot of sense for it to be. Just going along the edge. Alright, let's go there. Do we have... Nope, I'm going to have to put some of my light color back out here. Let's go with the titanium white. That got wiped out in a hurry. So these little things up here that you see, those are basically little watercolor trays. The idea is I can put stuff like the inks or the contrast paints in there. Just a little bit what I need. And if those get spilled, well then, okay, a little bit of it spilled, that's it. But spilling an entire brand new jar of contrast paint is a really, that's an $8 boo-boo right there. We don't want that to happen. Definitely don't want to be losing that much paint in one horrible accident. And I just get those on Amazon. They're really, really, really cheap. Actually, some of them even come with magnets, which you can, well, use for magnetizing to a metal palette, or use them for magnetizing your miniatures, which is pretty much what I intend to do. There, we're just trying to pop some more lights in a couple places here. Come on, there we go. Yep, we needed that right there. And, oh yeah, we definitely need some more lights on the little bits of your, essentially your rib cage there. Like I said, this is the point where you refine as much as you need to refine it. Heck, you could even, you take it off the pen or you take it off whatever the little painting holder that you use and use it in a game. Then you put it back on the holder again. You paint some more. Play another game with it. Put it back. So on and so forth until you're basically then satisfied with it. Now, I'm going to go with some, this is just some glazes of that phthalo with a touch of yellow in it. Good. I think you can see that there. Oh, miniatures, conversions, and dioramas, watercolor tray. That's great. Yeah, that now the wet palette right here that you see me using is just a Chinese food container. This is the lid right here, and then I can take the rest of it here and just plump, pop that on there, and boy, it stays wet for weeks, and it doesn't get the oh gosh, the moldy stuff going on in there that the like the $30 trays do, which is kind of ironic. And yes, the Chinese food is very tasty. This is a brand new one made with, oh, is it chicken almond ding? That's what it was. I would have loved to have maybe some General Tso's or something like that, but we're trying to stay away from the breaded stuff. The chicken almond ding is more just kind of naked chicken. Yes, you didn't expect a culinary discussion now, did ya? I expect the unexpected. Because, well, that's pretty much what's going to happen. Like, I don't even know what's going to happen most of the time. So again, just working. So I want to see if I can't get myself right in here. Right in this spot. A darker green. See how there's just a line of it there? Now, can I do a similar thing with a, yeah, see that dark brown line right there? Oh, hey, Evil Elvis. Hey, there we go. Wow, I was actually awake enough to just remember that. How about that? It's been a wild one here. Well, and remember, you can always go back to the beginning of these if you come in towards the end or something. The whole idea is that I want these to have, the replay value where you could watch them again, and it's more like I just uploaded a standard video. So where's his base? Here it is. So there's the base. That's pretty much dry. So that's the base that he's going to be standing on right there. And at a certain point here, I'll just, again, I haven't done the bottom section very much yet, but I think he's going to look nifty on that base even the way he is right now. Here, I'm going to grab me some of this green. This is another reason where the liner brushes can be handy, because I can get down in here. No problem. Easy peasy. Yeah, let's get me a little more white there, or just a light gray. Don't want to make stuff too light down in the crevices, as always. Out here, let's get ourselves a few lighter areas here. Where's that Achillean green? That's what I was wanting to look for there. We haven't used this in a while. Remember, we used it over here. Let's see just how light we can get this over right in that spot. Again, the liner brush does give us a little more reach than we otherwise might have, like down in here. And can you see? Now you can. Now I can't see it. In any case, this is just to show you how that liner brush can really get down in there without hitting some of your other stuff. Now, for some folks, it'll be a little weird maybe to use it at first because you're probably more used to the standard spotter style brushes. Alright, I want to get myself a few striations of, yeah, it can't just be a, that's what I used to do with metals way back in the day, and not all that long ago I started to realize, no, I can't, I have to have a little more action in the midtones than just, well, a smooth transition. Sounds like that should be enough. It's not really enough. Well, this is almost a little bit of green right here. Yeah, this is actually some of the fluorescent yellow or orange mixing in with my blue almost. Like I said, expect the unexpected. You never know what's going to happen. Once again, every so often thinking, okay, over here. It can't just be all dark down in there. Can you see that? Now you can. This is where we're going to sneak in just that little extra bit of color here. For whatever reason, down in there is sky blue. Don't know why, there just is. Now, where is my... So this is that, again, the spotter brush, but we're only looking to do some spots. So again, a bit of a brighter, little bit of a touch here. Oh, I need to go on, yeah. That's the other thing I was missing. And I'm gonna set him aside. And now we're gonna mess with the base here a little bit. I'm gonna get my, actually I'm gonna get me something to drink here real quick. There's a little bit of my fluorescent paint. Oh, let's see what we have left of our yellow here. And this is where we can maybe clean up a few. But I gotta tell you, it's so much harder to do this than it is just to do it how we originally just went over the top. Now, if I thin this down, it'll also sort of settle in the crevices a bit. Now, hopefully you can see that. And the idea is only in this area here, not everywhere. This is sort of a center of interest part for the base here. Also, areas where maybe I went over the top with the green. Where we're just going to clean this up. So there's another area right here. The green just got in there where it's not supposed to be. Oh, let's clean that up too. Now, I don't know. Well, yeah, it's just a straight fluorescent orange in there. But I want to rebuild some of my little diodes and stuff down here. Yeah, and this is where, when we added the green over the top, maybe it filled some of that in. And if my voice is sounding a little rough and haggard, it's it still really hasn't recovered from Reprocon. Well, and I guess the allergies since then, because it is sort of, at least it seems for the two of us around here, this is allergy time. So I've tried to nurse it through. So if you heard what sounded like a cough drop before in the early phases of this, well, it was. Because it was either that or not be able to talk. Here, we're just gonna get this line going here. So you can see what we're doing. We're just building back. I will say, when you're baking the Sculpey, every oven is different. The instructions, yes, they say this temperature for this long. What I'll recommend is that, well, first of all, and you'll see it in the little video instruction there when I link it in, use a ceramic tile, not a metal tray, because, well, first of all, if you're using a metal cookie sheet, your cookies are going to taste like Sculpey, and my guess is those aren't going to be the yummiest cookies in the universe. Oh, thanks. Thanks, miniatures, conversions, and dioramas. I keep thinking it's miniatures and conversations. Well, we are having a conversation here. Unless I'm actually asleep and I've just dreamed all of this. Now I'm gonna, oh, here it is. Just for the heck of it. So we're taking the white. Remember, because this is our center of interest area here. That is what I was hoping to be able to do. Is just hit a few small parts of that. So see how there's a transition there. It's not all the same. And then it also makes it a little bit lighter than our lightest marble color, which is also another good thing. And all of this, you'll figure it out as you go. There is no set formula like for the baking. I would say get at least two, if not three, ceramic tiles, and bake Sculpey. If you got 3 levels of your oven, bake the Sculpey on all 3 and see what happens. Because when we got a new oven, Sculpey baking changed massively. It was not the same oven. It was different, and I had to get used to it. So that is why I strongly recommend that you do the same thing for yourself. You bake it in a few different locations and see how each one comes out. So now here's where I'm going to have to go back in with my green, but that's okay. But now we got a nice bright, nice and bright there. Here I'm just going to reinforce some of those lines. Maybe down here the same thing. Yeah, that one definitely, because in a few of these places I just didn't want to hit it too hard with the green. I could, in reality, spend hours on this base. If this is something I'm doing for golden demons or whatever, well, then it makes sense. If this is something for Thursday night at the game store, well, that extra detail can maybe wait a little bit. I see I've got myself another little part here that just got kind of wiped out. Yeah, let's just fix that line. Now what I want to do here is just before it gets too late, and hopefully my pin stays where it's supposed to. It looks like it. So you can see we're just kind of taking the there. Now let's stick this guy where he belongs. There. Here, I'm gonna back this out so we can get a little peek at what he looks like here. There. So this way I can point him downwards because he's sort of looking down, right? Now if we like him this way, whatever, it depends. Let's see what he looks like. That way, not so much, I don't like. But there, that really gives him a nice look, I think. I'm going to get chat back here while I still can. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if I've got myself some snippers here. Looks like those went away. Just give me a second here. 1 second. So yeah, I don't want to break any of my good clippers on a pin because we only have so many of those. That's better. Take some of that. And now he rests exactly where he's supposed to. But now do I have to consider, okay, do I put any of this reflecting down onto here? Maybe, maybe not. To me, I think that would lose some of the effect there, and it's farther, it's really farther away than that. This, here, let's grab a touch of this. Maybe not too much. Where are we at? There, now you can see it. Okay, so we do a little bit of this. Maybe ever so slightly here. We just give it that little bit of a glow. So can you see that? Yeah, I think you can see that. So just right there, see we got that in there. That's, I'm gonna just do a little touch of it here. I know maybe this is going a little too far with it, but sometimes you just can't resist. I'm going to get myself a little bit of a highlight on some of these rocks and surfaces. Now, yeah, I could glue that in. I'm not sure if I want to glue that in just yet. But now we actually have, see, that kind of actually leads right into that. I think we have some, now I'm glad we got the yellows down here too. But I do need, let's get just a touch more. Well, that could be too much. Yep, that's going to be too much. So I get more snakebite leather and a little more of the orange rust color in there. I'm really tempted to break out the weathering powders and see what would happen. But I think I will just let those be. We're just getting a little more of our light color on the base now. Here, let's just do somewhat more shading around here, and I'm not sure why. Just my spidey sense tells me to do that. Even here. This is not reflected light, it's basically sort of simulating dust, which again I could do with the weathering powders. But I guess I'm just trying to avoid those. I'm going to take some of that wildwood there. Look at that. I think that is one of my, if you're looking for a favorite contrast, I love that. And not so much in the classic sense of I'm just going to make something a dark brown wash. I like mixing it with other colors. So see how now there's some brownishness to that. Yeah, that was a good idea. It was too, yeah, let's do more. Let's do more of that here. So now it looks like it's a little more dust covered. And this is, it's not a dry brush. The paint's relatively dry. Here, let's get some of that wildwood, the contrast wildwood in there. Like so. Yeah. Well, this was a, boy, this was a lot of fun. I knew it would be. I just wasn't sure how much I'd be able to get to here. Now, clearly, we took a pass on the bottom. We did a very minimal amount there. And there's just a lot more I could do in other spots also. But at least I was able to kind of cover the major bits, to say the least. Because this thing was nothing but primer. Base and figure alike. Had nothing on that. Oh, what? 3.5-ish hours ago? So I just want to, I'm going to pass along some thanks here. Bethany, Evil Elvis, Miniatures, Conversions, and Dioramas, Singing Piranha, Greg, First Last, Mandalore, oh, Storm, and all the Garys, and of course the Waleeds that were here. Much appreciated. So actually, if you could, do the like thing on this, because YouTube likes it when people like things, and then I can do more of these things. You do the subscribe thing, and I guess you have to click on the bell to get notifications for stuff like this. Apparently I need to start doing that on the channels that I follow, because I don't know if the bell was a thing at the time. I just subscribed. So yeah, do the subscribe and the bell thing, then you find out when these are going to happen as they happen. And like I said, Patreon page, I'm doing a whole series on Necrons right now. Actually, not a whole series. Oof, that sounds bad. Several series. Let's call it that. It's late. we don't want to go into YouTube hazard territory there. Not quite. Dusting a little more of this here. Let's do some down on the bottom of the base right here. Why not? Let's have some fun. Oh, thank you very much. I guess what I'm trying to do is sort of bridge that gap, because there seems to be, I don't know, it seems like an artificially created gap where it's either a gaming miniature or a display, and neither the twain shall meet, or however that saying actually goes. To me, they can meet, and like I said here, they can. You start with this, and then maybe you just carry it a little further. Look at this. We're even tying this into this broken landscape here. We're tying those colors together. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate it. Appreciate that a lot. And what I'll do is I'll get you some nice pictures of this and put those up on the Instagram, or you can see it at Wapelius Instagram. Thanks again. Miniatures I really do something about this green and orange and this kind of gold all goes together. So thanks again, everybody, and I will catch you on the next one.